All right, greetings. Well, welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How you doing? Greetings all. We are live on Rockfin, Callin, and YouTube. Let's get into it. Well, we'll start with this. More hurricane footage, not from Florida, from South Carolina. As Ian is already coming ashore. Oh. What happened there? That was weird. Sorry, guys. I lost. My tweet disappeared. But not totally. It's right here. Here we go. Man, it's already looking like a rerun of what happened in Florida. Some serious surge. Yeah. So, just so you know, it's not that this never happens or doesn't happen. It's just that it happens all the time now. When certain extreme weather events happen all the time, then that's not an anomaly. That's not like, oh, this has happened before. It happens once in a while. No, that means something different is happening. And people can see that something is going on. I think people can understand that something is going on. And we're going to talk about the disingenuousness of the current state of journalism in regards to climate change. It's unfortunate because it's just going to lead to more confusion, and we live in confusing times already. Isn't it hard enough that people are completely confused about what's going on, you know? Anyways, what's up, people of Rockfin? How you doing? Milburn Stone. Did Milburn Stone disappear? I don't know. Where'd he go? Yes, Jim Garrison, it is the new normal. This is, it's incredible the amount of non-reporting or observation of things that are going on. And, you're supposed to be a journalist. You're supposed to cover the news. You're supposed to, tell people what's going on in the world. And there's a whole section of journalists out there who are misrepresenting this incredibly huge story on the planet Earth in order to run another story. It's wild. But also totally understandable. Humans don't want to come to grips with their own overconsumption or, drunkenness, if you will. The entire human race is drunk on fossil fuels. and has been for quite some time. And everybody thinks this is how life, this is how we're supposed to do it. I'm supposed to get up every day and have 3 martinis just to start the day. And then whatever else follows. And if you took away my 3 martinis, man, that would be really uncomfortable. Don't you do that. Don't you tell me I'm overdoing it. Oh, this is great. A friend of mine sent this to me last night, and now it is all over Twitter. I mean, literally every single person has retweeted this today. Every single climate change changer on Twitter has retweeted this video. But it's pretty good. Tweeted out by Adam McKay. We'll see if I can get sound on it.
We at Chevron believe that nothing is more precious than life. And that the most precious life of all is the dead kind that has been compressed for hundreds of millions of years under massive rocks until it magically becomes oil. Oil that we can refine and sell as gasoline. So a cool-ass tank can crush a clay hut. Or an airplane can take a businessman 3,000 miles to have dinner with someone, or whatever. All the while releasing greenhouse gases that are transforming the planet right this second into a hellish George Miller film. Because at the end of the day, we at Chevron straight up don't give a single fuck about you, your weird children, or your stupid ratty-ass dog. And we have billions and billions of dollars to pay for this commercial time, this cheesy footage, and this bullshit music. All so that you will be lulled into a catatonic state that makes you forget one singular fact. Chevron is actively murdering you every day. See, the human brain can only deal with so many things at once, so these emotionally loaded scenes will always push aside other thoughts like, Chevron is murdering me. It's just how our brains work. You meat puppet who exists only to feed us profits. Chevron. It's hard to even comprehend how little of a fuck we give about you. And this commercial also applies equally to Exxon, BP, Shell, or delinquent lapdog media, and any hack politician who's trading the future of life on this planet for filthy money and oil stocks.
There you go. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, TCR, we are effed. We are effed because we're getting further away from a coherent conversation around climate change. When the alternative media, the people that are supposed to tell you the truth, can't even cover climate change, can't even talk about it. And the only ones that do talk about it is if it's something that isn't real or is only used as a mechanism for control and therefore isn't real because it's only a mechanism. When we've reached the point where the brain scramble is complete and, I don't know what to tell you. But again, the people that think that climate change, somehow there's more money and power in climate change than there is in the entire fossil fuel driven economy of the entire planet, including all the militaries of the world, somehow that lobby is more powerful. Or, yeah, we're going to talk about Jimmy Dore too, a little bit. We're going to talk about Jimmy Dore, and the one thing that I actually really disagree with Jimmy Dore on. I don't disagree with him. He just doesn't cover climate change, and he never has. He's a couple of times said, "Well, And it looks like things are getting kind of bad, and he would do that, over the years. But he never actually covered climate change or talked about climate change or talked about it being a real thing or went in depth. And I imagine partly because it's a ratings killer. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Or not. It's not okay, actually. There's a heat wave in Asia. I mean, we cover this story each and every day. I talk about how there are extreme, we're crossing planetary boundaries every single day on this channel. Extreme, anomalous, out of, pocket weather events that are happening kind of all the time now. And while this is happening, the people that are supposed to be telling you the truth are going in the opposite direction of actually covering this story or actually talking about this or discussing this as if it's something that's actually happening on the planet Earth. Does Jimmy Dore think HARP controls all the weather? Does Jimmy Dore think there's a Dr. Evil on a mountain layer somewhere making up all this weather? Or is he riding the wave of the popularity of the WEF Klaus Schwab story to the detriment of people actually understanding what's happening with climate change? Yes, he is. That's actually kind of messed up too. But that's cool, Cool for all the journalists out there trying to make a buck, knowing that covering a particular story might actually get in the way of making that buck. It's an interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing. The heat wave in China continues. We have been talking about this for weeks. This is a week-long heat wave in China, and nobody is talking about this. Nobody is talking about this. Not mainstream news, not alternative news, nobody is talking about. Nobody's going, Jesus Christ Almighty, what is going on in China? It seems like it's kind of getting warm there. I wonder what we call that. I don't know. What should we call that? Uh, 38.7C, 38.5C, 38.4C. All over China and Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea. Even hotter tomorrow. Yikes. Dun, dun, dun. So while everyone is super positive that climate change is only something that the powers that be are trying to tell you is a thing so that they can make you eat bugs and take away all your stuff. Meanwhile, it's funny too. We'll get to the video pretty soon. I actually was going to play this video, not Jimmy Dore commenting on this video. But there's a clue in this video. Supposedly where Don Lemon, gets slapped down by this meteorologist. There's a clue in this video that actually details that climate change actually is causing this hurricane, right? He's saying, well, let's not talk about climate change causing this hurricane. But then they use the words rapid intensification. Why is the rapid intensification happening? Because the waters are so goddamn warm. Because we have conditions that allow for rapid intensification. So you actually can talk about these hurricanes in the context of climate change. Because why? Because they're rapidly intensifying, turning into these huge behemoth monster hurricanes very quickly. Why? Because the waters are so goddamn warm. Why are they warm? Why are they warm? Because of climate change. Because of global warming. They're warm because it's warming. So it just the guy, they're having this discussion, and somehow this is a slap down on Don. I don't like Don Lemon. I really do not. I do not support Don Lemon. I'm not into CNN. I don't like CNN. I don't like what they do. He tries to bring up climate change, ostensibly for political reasons or whatever. But I mean, he's actually correct. In that one moment, Don Lemon is correct, and the meteorologist and we'll get to the video. Anyways, we're looking at, video of, something that isn't happening. This is a video of things that are not happening on the planet Earth. All right, I'll take this call from North. What's up, North?
Hey man, yeah, it's stupid. I find it funny. One of the big talking points right now against climate change is how people are say, "Oh, you can't model climate. You can't, climate is everything. It's all these things. It's all these factors." And so you have like these meteorologists deal in weather and to say like, "Oh, look how hard it is to predict the weather 14 days out." When that's not what climate modeling is. Climate modeling
Yeah,
is not is not the modeling of specific climate in a certain place at a certain time. Like when people are talking about climate modeling or models for, they're just talking about heating.
probabilities.
Yeah, they're just talking about heating. They're just saying,
Right.
okay, given the trends that are happening with land and oceans and the atmosphere and the amount of CO2 that we've been putting in, what's the overall heating, like temperature of the planet and the ocean is going to be? That's all they're doing, and then from there they can like make guesses of like how
Yeah.
that warming is going to
Right.
maybe affect different parts of the world. But that's not what they're modeling. They're modeling just the heating of the planet, and that's not everything. That's like one or two things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that misconception that people keep basing their argument on. It's like, oh, you can't model everything. It's like, that's a straw man, dude. They're not trying to model everything. They're just modeling heating and then making guesses
Yeah.
after the fact.
Right. And the thing is that all the scientists are very clear. Excuse me. All the scientists are very clear. So climate scientists are conservative to a fault. They're the ones that are the first ones that jump out and go, well, we can't attribute anything to one particular thing. They do that for themselves, And it's funny. Here's another point. Well, thanks for the call, North. I'm going to let you go because I want to cover some more stories pretty quickly here.
Sure.
Thank you, though. A good point. So, okay, I'll just skip to the, because we're talking about it, and I'll just skip to this video. I was going to play it a little bit later, but Jim Pye sent this to me, but I saw this video floating around, the original video with Don Lemon. So, here's a whatever. Let me just point out a couple of silly things. I don't know. For one, they're talking to a NOAA scientist. NOAA is supposed to be like NASA. NOAA and NASA are supposed to be all part of this cabal, right? They're supposed to be all running, this. They're all part of the thing, the WEF, right? They're misinforming everybody about hyping climate change. But this guy is from NOAA, and he's like, well, we can't attribute it. He's just giving you a scientific thing. I don't know. Well, they're kind of just dunking on Don Lemon for bringing up climate change, and maybe you can dunk on him, maybe not. I don't know. We'll listen to this.
I guess right now it's hitting Florida, and not good. The Tampa Bay side, the Gulf side, and we were just there. I love Tampa Bay. So Don Lemon goes on. Everybody's saying that this hurricane is because of climate change. They just say it. They just.
Well, Nike. Sorry about that, guys. Who is saying this is because of climate change? Sorry, that was me. I blew it. Yeah, I think climate scientists are saying, hey, look at this rapid intensification. Look at how big this storm is. We're getting these storms, these really large storms that travel a really long way every single year, right? So that don't just hit one part of the country, but several parts of the country over and over again. We just had a storm that went from, Puerto Rico to Canada. Anyways. And we're having a storm that's going through Florida to South Carolina. We had a storm last year that went from the Gulf of Mississippi all the way to New York. Does it seem like a really strong storm to you? All of them are strong. And people are going like, geez, I think the storms are getting stronger. So actually on this point, on this particular moment, Don Lemon is actually correct. I hate to say it. He's actually correct. They're getting stronger. And so Jimmy Dore uses this moment to dunk on Don Lemon incorrectly. But Jimmy Dore never covers climate change and never talks about climate change. God dang it. If I can't stay on this god dang video, sorry about that. I'm just a little frustrated at myself. I keep pressing the wrong button and going the wrong way. Here we go. All right. I'll stop talking.
Now everybody's saying that this hurricane is because of climate change. They just say it. They just say it, and then the guy who's the head of the
because it's true.
He has some different ideas. You ready for this? Watch this.
Can you tell us what this is and what effect climate change has on this phenomenon?
Well, we could come back and talk about climate change at a later time. I want to focus on the here and now. We think the rapid intensification is probably almost done. There could be a little bit more intensification as it's still.
So I want to stop right there. And he's like, well, let's talk about the here and now. Okay. Oh, whoa. He totally moted Don Lemon. What is rapid intensification? That is a new term. That's something that wasn't used when I was a kid. That is a brand new term. That is, something that people only have started to use in the last few years. Why is rapid intensification happening? Because the waters are so goddamn warm. That is due to climate change. So the hurricane, hurricanes aren't caused by climate change. They happen. They have happened. But the strength, the severity, the frequency, all of that is going up because of climate change. And rapid intensification is something now that happens every time a hurricane hits the Gulf of Mexico because the water is so goddamn warm. That's because of climate change. So this hurricane wasn't formed by climate change, but it was strengthened and made more powerful. It's called rapid intensification. That is actually climate change. So I don't know why, this guy is just trying to be scientific and say like, well, we can't attribute any one thing to one thing. That's fine. That's just very scientific. That's what climate scientists always say. So it's not really a super big dunk. It's not the dunk that they think it is.
Over the warm waters of the eastern Gulf of Mexico, but I don't think we're going to get any more rapid intensification. If you look here, you can actually see, pretty interesting for your viewers, you can actually see a second eye wall forming around the inner eye wall, and that's basically the second eye wall has overtaken the original eye wall, and that should arrest development.
So listen, I'm just trying to get that. You said you want to talk about climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon?
He won't stop. And you know what this is? This is Don.
Well, hold on. Before we get to what Jimmy Dore is saying, there are plenty of, there's statistics that tell us how often climate change is brought up compared to, another story, right? Lee Camp, a video I watched the other day, brought up the fact that, climate change was only, was covered for a few minutes over the last couple of years, but Queen Elizabeth's death was given, so many hours of airtime, right? And so many other things are given just all this airtime, but climate change is barely mentioned. So it's like, for one, climate change is barely mentioned and barely covered. And then when they do, all of a sudden, oh my God, they're all in the hands of the WEF and Klaus Schwab. Because they even said the words climate change. They're just pushing this climate change agenda. No, they're not. They barely started mentioning it until like last year. And all of a sudden it's an agenda when people, who are concerned about climate change were like, hey, do you want to talk about climate change? Hey, you want to talk about, hey, when are you guys going to talk about climate change? And as soon as they do, oh my God, it's an evil plot to control you and to make you eat bugs. In their mouth.
Lemon wanting to get a scientist guy to dunk on a red state. And MAGA people who don't believe in climate change.
And hold on. He's also assuming that this is where Don Lemon is going with this. That's also just like, I don't know. This video, I really like Jimmy Dore, and I've always said that I really like Jimmy Dore, but this video is full of bullshit. Jimmy Dore sucks ass. Sorry. Oh God, I just went completely all the way off. Jimmy Dore is not doing a good job on this video because he's assuming that Don Lemon saying because it's climate change is because he wants to dunk on how do you know that? You think he's saying that so that everybody can go like, ha ha ha, those dumb red staters are, because they don't believe in climate change. That's what they get. I mean, yeah, there are people out there saying that. Sure. There are lefties out there saying that. And they're idiots. They're as big as idiots as, whatever. It's just factional politics. It's just team sports. Right. But that just him assuming that that's why Don Lemon is saying that is actually swing and a miss from Jimmy Dore on that one. Oops. How do you know he's going to say that? I don't know. Maybe Don Lemon actually thinks climate change is a thing. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just a weird thing. Whatever. We'll keep going.
Easily could be Don Lemon was it? Does he have an earpiece and the producers tell him to say climate change again? Also, maybe?
He does have an earpiece. I don't know if that's what the producer
Hard to
said.
tell.
It's hard to tell. Can you tell us what the climate change effect has on this? I could care less about the people that this hurricane is going to destroy. But if you could just say something about climate change that will allow me to righteously scold these gross MAGA poor people.
But so he doesn't know that the producer is saying that into his earpiece, but how does he know he's going to scold the MAGAs? I'm missing, I don't know. I'm missing all this. missing where, it is that he knew that he was going to say, well, this is climate change. And if those people would only do the right thing and stop being MAGAs, then we'd stop having climate change. It's just, yeah.
For not believing in climate change. I think the last 200 CNN viewers would really appreciate that.
Andy Kindler personally wrote to me and asked.
All right, so I'm not gonna play any more of this. You guys got the point. There's no need to listen to the rest of that. But exactly, D-Truth. They think climate change is a woke thing. Well, that's the thing is like, all the lefty. Or not all, but most of the lefty leaning most of the lefty, newscasters, journalists that I actually like and listen to are having their brains eaten by this like Klaus Schwab, let them eat bugs thing. It's become very, very fashionable. And that's fine. But the thing is that now you're just, you've now just wiped away the reality of climate change, or of you actually covering climate change as if it's a real thing. And just a big fat F minus on this for Jimmy Dore. Sorry, man. I like his show. I listen to Jimmy Dore all the time. He's probably one of my favorite journalists, but that doesn't mean that I can't, again, people that I wouldn't normally listen to sometimes get it right, and people that I listen to all the time sometimes just really just step in it so horribly. And because nobody is covering climate change anymore, because it's just completely, unfashionable on all levels for people to actually talk about climate change. I have to cover people talking about it in really not very intelligent ways. Yeah, that was really bad. That was just really bad. I do like Jimmy Dore. That was just really bad. And I actually left a comment on the video. I was just like, "Are you ever going to cover climate change there, JD? You know, now that you're done dunking on Don Lemon and CNN, you know, and they suck. I don't like Don Lemon. I don't like CNN, and they're pretty horrible. And I don't, you know, they're responsible for a lot of the scrambling of people's brains. But you know, Jimmy Dore adding to the scrambling is not helpful. It's just not helpful. And so I have to call out the people that are supposed to be telling you the truth, giving you the brain scramble, because it's even worse. You know, it's like when people talk about Bernie Sanders and feeling betrayed, it's like, well, this guy, you know, we know these other people are liars, and Bernie came in, you know, here, I'm your white knight, and then I'm going to tell the truth and fight for you and do the right things, and then completely selling you out. People feel more betrayed by that. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, the truther crowd is betraying you on a very deep level, on an incredibly deep level. And it pisses me off more because we expect it from a particular brand of journalists. But when you go to a journalist, a particular outlet, platform, whatever, channel, and you're like, here, I'm going to get the truth today. And then they just slide in some brain scramble on you. I'm like, I have to actually let you know that they're scrambling your brains. And it's just not, it's messing people up pretty bad. Anyways. Yeah, and this is, you know, if the truther crowd thinks, you know, they won on COVID, so therefore they're feeling the hubris. They're feeling the, you know, we're riding high, we're right about everything, and they're going to walk into a big old sinkhole called climate change. Because most of them are completely worthless on that front and not telling you the truth about it. And it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. The WF and Klaus Schwab and all that stuff is not even going to matter. When people are running, you know, from their homes are up in flames or floating away or, you know, whatever. When climate change rocks you, all that other stuff is going to become pretty meaningless. But part of the reason why, the last thing I'll say about this, part of the reason why the mainstream media and the alternative journalists are aligned on climate change. Why? Because climate change, the reality of climate change actually gets in the way of continuing business as usual. It's bad for your business model, right? So you can't cover climate change, and you can't talk about the reality of climate change and what it's going to do to, you know, the future of your economy or your world, because it's too much. It's too overwhelming. It's too scary. It just undermines everything, right? That's why the mainstream media can't tell you about the reality of climate change, because suddenly people would go like, why are we doing this? Why are we even, what does this mean in the context of the fact that we're going to lose biosphere, you know, habitability for humans? What does this mean? It means nothing. Right. It like obliterates the actual seriousness of your reality pretty quickly. And so alternative journalists have the same take that mainstream journalists have on climate change. Why? Because it makes your reality suddenly kind of meaningless. It's too much of an existential threat, so they don't want to go there. And they won't go there until it's so obvious that they're like, oh, geez, oh, man. until it's just too late for anybody to really actually. Okay, anyways, whatever. We'll keep moving on. And I know it sucks. I mean, I'm covering this, and I know it's heavy. I know it sucks. I know it's a terrible, horrible thing to think about. But it is the truth. And so think about it, we must. Because the truth is the way in which people can actually deal with the future or bad things, you know, in a better way, in a more grown-up way, in a more enlightened way, in a more conscious way. That's how, you know, lies will only hurt you. Anyways. All right, so let's move into Russia. I'm sorry about that, North. I didn't mean to. North was trying to call in, but I'm sorry, North. I want to move forward a little bit. And if you come back, maybe call in a few minutes. On another front, this is not good because seems like things between Ukraine and the Ukrainian crisis is pretty much escalating. So Zelensky has announced Kiev will no longer negotiate with Russia while Putin is president, and that he's applying for full NATO membership today for Ukraine. Apparently, they applied for a fast track to NATO membership. Okay, that's bad, right? Because that's the thing that Russia is upset about. One of the reasons why they invaded. Which Western leader put him up to this craziness, says Luke Radowski. Meanwhile, they had elections in occupied territories, and they basically all voted to become part of Russia. Russia's taking them over or annexing them, and Putin is, pretty much saying like, we're not. We're going to do whatever we need to do, and this is not. I'm not. This is not good. This is not good at all. This is an escalation for sure. Because it seems like both sides are speeding towards more war. Now people chant Russia, Russia, Russia after Putin signed documents to annex occupied Ukraine lands. So now these lands are now part of Russia. Judy Truitt says NATO already rejected Zelensky's appeal. Wow. That was fast. It took like half a day. They're like, nope. And well, just more on the same thing. Caitlin Johnson says Ukraine is trying to start World War III by applying for NATO membership. Which is, explicitly why one of the main reasons why Russia invaded was that they didn't want Ukraine as part of NATO. This is a negotiating point for them. I think it's non-negotiable, pretty sure. for them. So I don't know why you would keep insisting that you're going to do that if you're not going to. If you're not ready to make things worse. Putin calls on Kiev to immediately cease military action and vows to protect the annexed lands with all the means at Russia's disposal. This is not good. Again, just, this is I can't get sound on this clip, so here we go.
They should see this expression of will with respect, and that's the only way we can reach a peaceful solution. We will protect our lands with every means we have at our disposal, and we will do everything to provide safety for our people. This is the great liberating mission of our people. And the key authorities, they should see this expression of will with respect, and that's the only way we can reach a peaceful solution. We will protect our lands with every means we have at our disposal.
Okay. He's just saying the same thing over and again. And Caitlin Johnson says, there's another tweet by Caitlin Johnson saying well, so now they're part of Russia. These parts of Ukraine are now part of Russia. Why don't we make a deal now? Why don't we end this now? Possibly because they don't want it to end. This is Perpetual Shadow Man says, just listen to us casually talking about doing it long before it ever happened. They're talking about the Nord Stream pipelines. I mean, obviously, long before this war started, Nord Stream was, the Nord Stream pipelines were seen as a threat by Western countries, or we'll call them companies. Western companies didn't like this Nord Stream deal, and they were vocal about it. Here they are talking about it.
To punish Russian aggression than by rolling back what progress has been made and, if at all possible, prevent the Nord Stream 2 from ever being completed. Is that something that is being discussed with allies? Is that something that's being contemplated?
Absolutely. And as you recall from the July U.S.-German statement, that was very much in that statement that any moves, Russian aggression against Ukraine, would have a direct impact on the pipeline, and that is our expectation and the conversation that we're having.
So again, direct impact is one thing, but I'm literally talking about rolling back the pipeline. And you can loosely define that, but I mean taking action that will prevent it from ever becoming operational.
I think if President Putin moves on Ukraine, our expectation is that the pipeline will be suspended.
Well, I certainly hope that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee would take up legislation to go beyond just suspending it, but from ending it permanently. But anyway, thank you, Undersecretary Newland.
Okay. And like clockwork, we were joking about this the other day, or I was joking about it. Well, Florida gets slammed by a hurricane. How about we send Ukraine some more money? Yeah, just in, U.S. Senate passes bill to send $12.3 billion in new military and economic aid to Ukraine. It just never ends. It never ends. It's a nonstop money flow to Ukraine. Billions. Is anybody upset about this? Like people You know, like people of the U.S., certainly people of Europe are upset. Is anybody upset about all this money going out and the fact that I still see people like, well, Biden is doing a great job. On what level is he doing a great job? On what metric are you basing that on? People in Prague protesting. They're protesting the EU and NATO. They want to end sanctions against Russia and force the government to import Russian gas. Demonstration censored by the EU media. It will be a very hot autumn in Europe and beyond. I mean, I would venture to say that this is not a popular conflict in the West. You know, there are a lot of people that are not happy about this. And I the people that support this are, I'm sure, majority of people are probably against this conflict. Poppy Davis says, I never see anyone in the U.S. questioning military spending, increasing military budgets, and certainly not for sending money to our new ally in Ukraine. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is what I want to show you all yesterday from Comrade Mist. We didn't really get to this video yesterday. It's much, much nicer in my studio today and in my city today. Jacinda asked, Arden, Jacinda, you know? Isn't it funny, though, like all these heroic liberal leaders from a few years ago have now all become supervillains? It is interesting. And they do seem like they're very much aligned with the Klaus Schwabens, with the weapons. And she even is going to say climate change, but that it doesn't mean that climate change isn't real. It just means that they're going to use it to not do climate change things, but possibly to impact your life in the short term. But I don't know. Again, climate change is a thing. So some of the things they are going to want to do, I don't see what the problem is. Right? I was listening to somebody talking about, they're going to take away your cars. You're not going to be able to just go to the gas station and fill up your car. These Malthusian. I was like, really? If that's Malthusianism, sign me up. Because I don't want to drive. I have to be honest. It was actually kind of cool. And I know a lot of people lost their minds during COVID. People lost their minds because they were like, what? I can't go out and get in my car and go get gas and go to work and go to my job and go drive around and sit in traffic and do the things that everybody else wants to do and, be a CFM. I'm losing my mind. I was like, this is awesome. When it hit and everything was shut down and there were no cars on the free, it was eerie on one level, but then it was also like, this is kind of great. This is kind of great. The screeching, honking, aggressive, humans were like, everybody had taken it down about 86 notches. And I was like, whew, you know, it's like, take a breath, you know. I couldn't think of anything better than for people to not be able to get in their car, drive to the gas station, and drive wherever they want. Why is that? Why is that such a weird thing? You know, it's a weird thing. You know, it is actually unnatural. You know, 3 billion cars on the people getting in their cars and lining up at gas stations to get gas and then sitting on the freeway, lining up to sit on the freeway to get where they need to go earn the money to put more gas in their car and get back on the freeway and sit on the. That is the insane. That's the part that sounds like hell to me, because it is hell. It sounds like, you know, the part about everybody not having a car and not having to go to the gas station and not go fill up your tank and go to wherever you want. That actually sounds pretty cool. It's like, yeah, that would be kind of nice. Oh, dang it. I cannot get sound on this. I couldn't get sound yesterday. I cannot get sound today on this video. Arg. Hold on. And if what I said just, you know, makes me a Malthusian, and it doesn't necessarily, but then so be it. It certainly doesn't make me a eugenicist. That's not the same. That's not eugenicism. People just say words they don't even understand or mean the meaning of. That's fine. Dang it. Why can't I get sound on this? Maybe if I do... Sorry, guys. Hold on. I want to just play this video. Moved to Missouri. There's no cars there. Sounds nice. Maybe if... So there's another trick, which is... There we go. If I can get sound on one video... No. I guess they just really don't want this video to be played. There we go.
To help improve research and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. This will also be important in understanding more about mis- and disinformation online, a challenge that we must, as leaders, address. Sadly, I think it's easy to dismiss this problem.
So these are the words that I don't agree with, and I find very frightening. The mis and disinformation on, this is such a horrible, horrible, horrible threat to our democracies and our way of life. No, they're a threat to your way of life, Jacinda. They're a threat to your power. The misinformation meaning truth. People telling the truth about us, that's called misinformation and disinformation. Well, this is such a threat to our way of life. No, it is not. Censoring people and knocking that down is a threat to our way of life. And it helps you stay powerful.
As one in the margins, I can certainly understand the desire to leave it to someone else. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light-touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly. But while I cannot tell you today what the answer is to this challenge, I can say with complete certainty that we cannot ignore it. To do so poses an equal threat to the norms we all value. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists? How do you ensure the human rights of others are upheld when they are subjected to hateful and dangerous rhetoric and ideology? The weapons may be different, but the goals of those who perpetuate them is often the same: to cause chaos and reduce the ability of others to defend themselves, to disband communities, to collapse the collective strength of countries who work together. But we have an opportunity here to ensure that these particular weapons of war do not become an established part of warfare. In these times, I'm acutely aware of how easy it is to feel disheartened. We are facing many battles on many fronts, but there is cause for optimism, because for every new weapon we face, there is a new tool to overcome it. For every attempt to push the world into chaos is a collective conviction to bring us back to order. We have the means. We just need the collective will.
Yeah, that was very problematic. There were a lot of, buzzwords in there that, these forces are attempting to sow chaos, ruin our way of life. Yeah. Look, I have a problem with people that don't think climate change is real. I don't want them silenced. I don't want them silenced. I don't want them shut down. I don't want anybody to shut down. I want everybody to have free speech. I want censorship to go away. But the things that she's saying there are very problematic indeed. And I think people are rightly concerned about this war on misinformation or disinformation. Yeah. Yeah, that actually serves the people in power. The misinformation trope, if you will. That is not a threat to society. Actually, the reality is that people are waking up to who actually controls the planet, who makes things run, how they work, who runs the show, and that is very concerning to the people running the show. They don't want that. They don't want that information available. They don't want people to have access to that or agency through the knowledge of that information. They don't want that. As is very, has become very obvious, right? There's lots and lots of censorship going on most major social media platforms, and people talk about it all the time. People discuss it all the time. It's a real thing. It's a thing that's happening. It's not made up. Nobody's imagining it. And that is actually the threat to our democracy. All right, guys, that does it for me. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will see you tomorrow at noon, 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And until next time, peace.